welcome to this episode of YPOW's Tales from the Superyacht Laundry. I'm here with Lou Kennard from Lux and Kiel. Welcome for the second time.
Thank you. At least you came to me this time.
Yeah, we did have some technical difficulties when we recorded you the first time, but I'm here in... Okay, I'm going to say it's dry on Tebe, but I'm not saying necessarily sunny. The weather has improved since yesterday, which was torrential rain. But I'm not taking any responsibility of bringing that weather from the UK. It's not my fault.
Good news is tomorrow's Friday and the weather's going to be good.
I'm hoping. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a soggy experience. So obviously on the podcast, we talk about everybody's journey. So before we talk about the company that you've created now, we have to go back to the beginning. So how on earth did you end up on a super yacht?
Well, I ended up on a super yacht just around the corner. My journey started in Antibes. I was lucky enough, I was a chef on the yachts, and after I graduated from cooking school, I had a Cordon Bleu certificate at the grand old age of 18. I got in touch with yachting partners that were based in Brighton, and they said that they needed a Cordon Bleu chef on one of their boats. So I came down here and got a job on a 30-metre, which is the equivalent of about a 60-metre, I guess, now. And that was my first, dive into the industry. I lasted a day on my first boat. The boat sold on the first day I joined. And then I ended up having to do it the hard way and walking the docks and look for work.
So when did your passion for cooking start? Because obviously I didn't realise you were like straight from school into becoming a professional chef. Was that the dream?
Yeah, it was probably the only thing I was actually half decent at. I did it at school, and I grew up in Southeast Asia, and a lot of the dinners there would go on for 8 courses, 9 courses. And of course, as a young kid, I got bored quite quickly and would find myself standing at the kitchen door of these crazy restaurants with woks going, flames flying high, and just always found it fascinating and grew up around amazing food. And was really, really lucky to live in these amazing places with amazing culinary diversity. So cooking was something that, I was drawn to. Food.
And then obviously went back to the UK to study, or?
Yep, I did my cooking course in the UK, and then my family have always been keen sailors, and so my vision was to be on some fast sailing boat and sail across the Atlantic and all that sort of stuff, but ended up on a motor yacht and then thought, oh, the beds are way nicer on these boats. Sorry.
I'm sure in the galley.
And the galley doesn't move as much. This is way more practical. What was I thinking? Thank you, YPOW. So, funny how it goes. And I never worked on a sailing boat, but that's what I imagined. But I'm sure, someone listening to this had a totally different...
Can you remember what the cooking experience was like? So obviously you've come from like formal training, I would say, to working on board. Can you remember how it felt, like as in, the job? Because obviously I should imagine when you have formal training, there's you
have a repertoire
and a menu, and you do what's on the menu. Whereas on boats, it can be a bit.
Again, I that part didn't faze me. The hard part was going to a supermarket in a different part of the world. And I remember one time I was looking for aspic. I was going to make this lovely, berry terrine, and it was all very Delia Smith and very lovely. And I accidentally bought fish aspic instead. And it had a bit of a funny taste.
Good old Delia Smith. There's another episode where she actually is mentioned, so you'll have to watch out for that.
There you go.
I do know Delia Smith. For anybody who's not in the UK, she was would say a cookery legend at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Still is.
Everybody had her book, and my mum still makes her Christmas cake.
Me too.
Religiously.
Me too.
So yeah, any chefs out there, Delia, you know, she was it back in the day. Before the internet, I imagine most chefs walked around with a
Delia Smith
cookbook.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's all we had.
Recipe books were big.
Joining a boat, I'd have to have my knives, my cookbook. There wasn't any of this scrolling and having it all on file, and totally different.
So your first impressions of the industry, can you remember, you know, what you were, you know, so you were young, you were on board?
18 years old. I'd come from sort of quite a structured schooling system. So I'd been at boarding school, and I think that did help a lot with getting you used to the yachting industry, because, you know, you're told what time to get up, what time to, what to wear, and all of that. So it wasn't too big of a transition for me. But what was a big transition was when I was asked to do cook stewing. And I was like, well, how hard can this be? And I wasn't the world's best stewardess, that's for sure. So I stuck to more, we did a couple of seasons down in the Caribbean that I was the cook stew, and I'd have to serve the starter, then run down and straighten up the beds and fold the towels, and then run back up, and the boys would clear the starter, and I'd make the steaks and put them out. And it was, I mean, it's a real young person's
It is a young person's job, but anybody who decides to do a chef stew position is mental.
Yeah. Well, it was a 25 metre. There was 3 crew doing everyone's job halfway through cooking. They want to launch the tender. They want to launch the jet skis. No. You know, you had to stop what you were doing. But it was the good thing about the smaller boats is you're much more involved with the guests.
Yeah.
You know, you end up sort of, you know, making a cocktail for yourself as well as making one for them. You know, I can guarantee there's people out there that, you know, I don't remember them, but they will remember us for making their family dream come true. So that's really nice. I really like that. And on a bigger boat, you know, at the end of a 2-week charter, half of them don't even know your name.
Yeah. It's, that's so true. There's more of a family vibe.
Yeah.
You know, you become part of their family temporarily.
Yeah.
And it's nice when guests treat you that way.
Yes.
You know, rather than just a servant.
Yes. Not always, yeah.
So from your heyday on board, can you give me a couple of highlights, like best places, best experiences?
Gosh, we did some really cool trips. I love like New England, you know, Newport, Rhode Island, Nantucket, New York, coming into New York on a boat and seeing the Statue of Liberty. That's definitely a huge tick on the bucket list. We did the Great Lakes, going through all the locks, and one in the morning you're in Canada and in the afternoon you're in America. I don't think the captain enjoyed that part too much, but it was really cool. Brilliant trip. We went to inland all the way to Tennessee for a boss because he wanted to watch a football game and he wanted to show off his boat. And it took us 3 weeks to go inland with this boat and staying every night on these little rickety docks. And it was total ad-libbing. So that was really cool. I've had some big lows. We've had a guest have a heart attack and die in front of us. That was pretty tragic. And we were in the Tobago Keys down in the lower Caribbean, and no access to any real hospital care. So that was quite tragic. Christmas Eve.
Oh my God, Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it was horrendous. So
I was going to say to you, because obviously when you were on board, I don't want to give lose age away, but there was no internet or satellite phones. Or,
no. It was fax machines.
Yeah. So you were out there. That was proper Wild West.
Yeah.
Did you feel vulnerable at any time? Were there any moments where you were like, oh my God, I'm a teenage girl in the middle of nowhere.
Because we just didn't know, did we? You're just that solidarity, and you're all together, you all look out for each other. You know, yes, mobile phones and the internet and everything, it's great because, you know, you feel so much more connected to your family wherever they are in the world, and they can check in with you, and you can show them FaceTime where you are in the world, and, you know, you don't miss people as much because you can see them whenever you want. But, you know, you sort of lose a little bit of that adventurism.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel free when you were on board?
We had a great time. I loved pretty much every minute, I have to say. I was on board yachts for 13 years. I was pushed off 6 months pregnant with twins in the Monaco boat show. That was the end of that. But I had a great innings, and I loved every minute, and I loved even the lows, because it's made me the person I am today.
So where did the romance come in? So I'm going to say, I was going to ask you, when did it change and you wanted to leave? I think your story is, when did you meet Mr. Right?
Oh, season 2. Season 2, episode 1. Yeah, season 2. So pretty much my whole career was working with my husband.
So were you chef, husband? Sorry, chef captain.
Chef captain.
Captain.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was quite good. I had my own little corner, my own little department.
So did he have any magical lines or anything, or was it just a slow burn?
No, gosh, he interviewed me down here in Antibes, and then said, you know, do you want the job or not? and I was like, oh, well, I can't decide, because I went for another interview on another boat, so I'm not sure. I'll meet you at 5:00 at the Bar de Port. The Bar de Port is now an ice cream parlour, but it's just through the archway as you come from the International Quay in Antibes. And I met him there, and I was like, oh, I can't decide what boat to choose. And this is out of character for me, because I know what I want usually. And I thought, well, he's really cute, but the other boat had more money. Oh, what do I do? So I tossed a coin, and I said, tails, I'll take the job with you. And tails it was. It's a true story.
Way. You literally flipped a coin.
I flipped a coin.
That could have sent you in a completely different direction.
Sliding doors moment there.
Wow. Flipped a coin.
Yeah.
That's quite epic. That is quite epic. Because it panned out the right way.
It worked out all right.
Lucky.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the reason why I didn't ask, had it changed? You know, did you feel like you wanted to leave, or did you just end up pregnant? Or a bit both?
Ended up pregnant, but with the realization that 1 minute I was the youngest on board, and then I turned around and I was the oldest. And then I thought, well, you know, this can't go on forever. And sadly, that's really the reality of, you know, I know some awesome chief stews that are still in the industry. Paula, and there's some brilliant pursers out there that are still in the industry. So yes, they've forged a career, but they've worked really hard at it. But for the most part, there's a shelf life.
There is a shelf life for the majority.
Yeah.
So you're pregnant with twins. Where are you going?
Back to my Fort Lauderdale.
So home became Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. And then after that, Italy, and then we've been now 13 years in France.
Did you give birth in America?
Yeah.
How is it, like, did you have any family around you? Any support? Nothing?
No.
Husband, at least?
He landed the night before. And I was told I had a month to go. Yeah. There's a pattern here, isn't there?
So landed, so obviously Fort Lauderdale, now you're in France. Obviously, raising twins, I imagine, is pretty hectic. Do you think your time on board helped you with managing twins? Are they like guests?
Yes, the old spreadsheet did come out when it came to nap times and who went to the loo when and how much milk this one had and that one had. So I think my organisational skills that you have to learn on a boat definitely came into play. And sleep deprivation was something I was used to.
Do you think it gears you up? I don't think it prepares you completely.
No, but it definitely, the long hours, the sleep deprivation, difficult guests.
Difficult guests. They never
difficult
tip.
kids.
They never tip.
Yeah.
Never tip.
So yes, it did. For sure, but it's a completely different world. You go from one to another, and that took a little adjusting for sure.
I've talked about it with some other guests. You are a part-time single parent.
Mm-hmm.
How did you adjust to that without hating him?
Yeah, I was lucky. The first 3 years, my husband was doing a build, so we got to stay together those 3 years. And he was sort of 9 to 5 type of job, and that really, really made a big difference. Getting to know the girls,
really.
Yeah, it was somewhat planned, but yeah, a bit of luck too. And now we're just used to it.
Well, hopefully they're a bit easier to manage.
Yes. Well, I don't
know. So transitioning ashore, obviously you're doing it because of children. How did you make the decision on where to live? Because obviously you've tried a couple of multiple countries. Well, how did you get to France?
Well, we met here. We've always loved French food. It goes back to food. Loved. There's a lot of school choices here. Italy just wasn't somewhere that I could see myself seeing out into retirement. So we had a really lovely time when we lived there.
You weren't keen on America?
No, didn't want to raise the girls there either.
It's quite interesting. When you've travelled as much as obviously yachties have, you know what will fit.
Yeah.
You've spent a decent amount of time in
and it's very expat here, and a lot of us, us mums are here in the summer. We've all, the husbands are out at sea or the partners, whatever. And so there's a real, again, going back there, most of them are ex-yachties. There's a real sense of community that we all help each other out. We look after each other. Our kids play together. Kids go to school together. So that I could, and being an expat myself, I could see myself, I fit here.
How was it integrating to the French community? Was it, how are they very receptive, or is it kind of a community within a community?
It's fine, but you can't help it, but you gravitate to your people. Mm-hmm. So,
natural.
And my children naturally, they went to French school, now they're at international school, but they naturally gravitate towards, people, parents with sort of a similar situation.
Multilingual
families. So, that's the beauty of being here. And I don't really have much family back in the UK, so plus the weather just wasn't an option. I mean, we are lucky here with the weather.
Most of the time, until I come.
Touch wood.
Until I come. So obviously you've got twins.
Mm-hmm.
When did you want to go back to work? What did you want to do? Any ideas? Obviously, I imagine chefing was off the table because of the hours, the pay.
I don't know. I just wanted to still be me. I didn't want to lose my identity, and it wasn't something that actually anyone ever told me. It was just like, I still want to do what I want to do. I still want to be me and have my thing. So I loved Liquid Yachtwear. Mm-hmm. This was years and years ago, and the owner was this hilarious lady that was a real powerhouse. And I said to her, throw me some business cards and I'll try and sell your product over in Europe. And she said, oh, hell yeah. So she sent me a couple of shorts, couple of skirts, printed me some business cards, and Liquid Yachtwear Europe started. And
wow. So that all came from you?
Yeah, I started it. And then I started it in Italy, walking the docks with my suitcase of samples. And then I opened the store when we moved to France. And the store's still where it is today, next to the Blue Lady. So, yeah.
If it wasn't next to the Blue Lady, I wouldn't know where it was.
I'm very proud of my time there. But I'd sort of done what I needed to do. And so I left a few years ago.
So you left a few years ago to start?
Well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So that was sort of the catalyst of saying, you know what, close that door. Thank you very much. It's been great. But it's time to move on and look after myself.
Did that feel like a natural thing to say goodbye, or was it?
It was very difficult because I was and still am, very proud of what I accomplished there. But having cancer made me realise I didn't want to be there anymore. And it was time to take some time out. Because literally, as you can tell from this podcast, I went from 6 months pregnant to having kids to starting a business. And so then I took a year out to take care of me. Yeah, and it was really good. I really needed that. So as crazy as it sounds, I have that to thank for giving me the courage to stop, check in with myself and get better and do something for me.
That's a really big pause. It's a forced pause.
A forced pause.
To have such a positive view on it. Did that, from the start, did you have that? Or,
Yeah, I was determined to have an end goal, because if I didn't have an end goal, then what? So I was always very focused. Dates. This date, I'll be finished with treatment. At the end of that, then I'm taking the rest of the year off. And on the 1st of January, 2023, I'm starting again. And that's what I did.
So you got through it through having something to look forward to.
Exactly. Yeah. Plus a holiday in Greece. My dream was to go to Greece. So I did that in the summer, and then built the website for Lux and Keel and printed my own business cards. And Lux and Keel was born. So now I'm starting year 2.
So when you're thinking about your idea of starting a company, what did you want to do differently? Or was it just, you just wanted to do it on your own and without the attachment? Or was it you wanted a different approach? Or
I just wanted to be able to make the end decisions.
You think you earned it?
Yeah, and I would like to leave something for my children. They'll probably hate the uniform industry. But it would be nice to leave something for my children rather than work for somebody else. And I think being in yachting, you kind of work for yourself-ish, don't you, really? Not selfish, self, sort of. So it does sort of, because it's your decision to stay or leave on the boat. It's your department. If you're a head of department, you're in charge of these people. So I wanted to have that end-to-end control. And,
Did you want to bring more style in? Because I've seen your range, and not being funny or everything. Even from my day, it's loads more stylish now. There was very limited options. You could have a polo in this colour, or this colour, or it can be this cut.
It's changing, and, it takes bravery. So come on, girls, help me be the change. Let's do something different.
Do you think the industry has, obviously we all know that the industry has been vain for a long time. Do you think it's been, visible tattoos? There's not all girls need to be a size 10 anymore. Do you see that as what you're selling is it's showing that it's more flexible?
Yep, definitely. Functionality now is a huge factor. It's got to be, practical, breathable, comfortable. No one ever asked us if our uniform was comfortable.
No.
Those shorts, the tiniest waist, and the most horrendous short bits. The skirts in the beginning was so hot back in the day. There was no breathability. No one ever asked us if we were comfortable. So now all of that is coming in. But yeah, it'd be nice to see us not having to wear polos every day. Nothing wrong with a polo, but
do a bit more imagination.
No, it's going. It's happening. It's happening. Yeah, and it's great to see.
It's nice to see the change. What would you now? So obviously starting again. Obviously when you started liquid wear, you had obviously them to rely on. Now doing it for yourself, you're becoming an entrepreneur, I know obviously you started that, but like a pure entrepreneur, you've designed everything, done everything. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from doing it all by yourself?
Baby steps, one thing at a time. Take time. Nothing happens overnight. You've got to get all your ducks in a row and stay true to who you are and what you're about.
What's the advice that you'd give any lady that is thinking about starting around it, or in the beginning right now?
Preparation. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Don't think that you're going to open a yoga studio and you're going to get 20 sign-ups on the first day. That's not going to happen. Don't think that you're going to, whatever it is that you're after. Nothing happens overnight. So make sure you're prepared for that. And when there's disappointments, pick yourself up and get back on the horse. Just got to keep going and keep plowing. And you've got to give yourself time and make sure you have enough money in the bank to support yourself during this time, because you don't need that added stress to make you go jump back on a boat. Because I've heard that before, girls saying, I tried, I gave it 3 months, and then I went back for another season.
The yo-yo
Yeah,
the yo-yo effect.
I want to live in Spain, learn Spanish. I want to be a yoga instructor. During your time on the boats, just do some courses, get that experience, then do some retreats, get involved with some people. You want to be a virtual purser or a nutritionist, get advice, be prepared. That's the key.
I think getting experience as well. Like in my head, I Googled to death what I thought I wanted to do next, but I really should have got off and done it to see whether it fit.
Yeah.
Because what you've Googled and what you're actually doing is completely two different
Well, who'd have told you you'd be a podcaster?
Well, yeah, I never imagined that. It wasn't even my idea, so I don't really take any credit for that.
It's great.
It is an interesting experience. So, I've said this on other episodes. Like my name is now Pivot, Charisse Pivot, even, because I felt like the business has pivoted. And I think we've talked about it just before we started recording the podcast. When you've got a true identity and you've got a true, why, what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it. Like you have a real need, you've seen a need, you've got an answer to that need, then the rest is,
it comes.
Marketing.
Yeah. Well, and it's, if you think you're going to go left, you might turn right instead. And this is how it develops. Don't be afraid of the change. Let it come to you. Let it be open to ideas.
and embrace the bad days.
Yes.
Embrace the bad days.
There's plenty of those.
Plenty of those. Would you, what was like looking back on your career on yachts? Would you have changed anything? Would you have done anything differently?
Gosh. Well, if I'm thinking about it, then the answer is probably no. But when I started on yachting, remember there was no training courses, no STCWs, no flower arranging courses, no chefs, cooks certificates, none of that. None of it. You just
Decided to go.
You just got on with it, and you all rallied together. So yeah, there's been some big changes. The industry I left isn't the same.
Talking about changes, like what are the positive changes you've seen in the industry?
Well, I think boats are safer now, for sure. I think there's more access for crew to better themselves. There's more room for growth. A lot of the owners now are open to the idea of rotation, which in our day we had 3 weeks holiday a year. Apart from that, we worked, and they didn't seem to understand, my father included, by the way, didn't seem to understand that when the guests aren't on board, they think you do nothing. That's when the real work kicks in, and the maintenance and the this and the that and the traveling. And so I think there's more crew longevity with rotation.
I think obviously I'd heard of captains, maybe first officers getting rotation.
Yeah.
But when I was on board, not a chance for any female crew.
No.
Like definitely not the interior.
Yeah.
Chefs, again, you'd have to have a very special relationship with the owner to probably get that. But I'd never heard of, the lower ranks, and definitely not the interior. It was never on radar.
So that's an improvement, because it is tough living in those tight quarters. So yeah, hang in there. It's nearly holiday time.
It's nearly holiday time. Do you think it's going to become a safer space for women as well?
I don't know, because I'm not on board.
You wouldn't like to say?
I couldn't say. No.
We like to obviously finish off with a couple of questions. So in the next, if we have this conversation again in 5 years, what's happening for you? What do you envisage?
Oh, well, I've got my cool warehouse. It's all decked out with my showroom. You girls will all be checking out my showroom. We'll have some fun stuff. Hopefully, make a few changes to the uniforms in the industry.
It would be nice if they're, like I said, like your stuff, you brought a lot of your offerings to the On-Tube event that we did last year.
Yes.
They just don't look anything like what I wore. It's a step in the right direction for sure.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of YPOW's Tales from the Superyacht Laundry. If you would like more information, please go to yachtpearlsofwisdom.com. All of our guidance and advice is on there, and information on how to join our online community. We look forward to seeing you next time.